I remember gripping the edge of the table so hard, I thought the wood would splinter beneath my fingers. The courtroom was dead silent. No coughs, no whispers. Just the low hum of the fluorescent lights and the ticking of the judge's antique, brass clock. She sat across from me, legs crossed neatly, that same smug tilt to her chin she always wore when she thought she'd won. And maybe she had, until that moment. Because when my secretary, Jenna, stood up trembling and said, "Your Honor, I believe this will clarify everything," and pressed play on her phone, the room changed. What spilled out wasn't just a voicemail. It was a weapon, a confession, a full unraveling of the story she'd spent months weaving around me. But before I tell you what was on that recording, you need to understand who I am and how this all began. How did it come to this? How did the woman I trusted most become the one who nearly destroyed my life? And why? Why did she target me in the first place? I am Eliza Sinclair. I am a single mother. I am the Deputy Director of the Community Outreach Office, just this side of City Hall. I wake before dawn every morning. I wake to the shrill ring of my phone against the glass bedside table. I wake, and I check my daughter's breath, the soft rise and fall of her chest. I have lived here for 15 years. I know every cracked sidewalk in Old Town, every potholed street in Eastgate. I have built my life, my reputation, on trust and small victories, organizing food drives, negotiating safety patrols, mentoring at-risk youth. I remember the first time Mayor Caldwell shook my hand. Firm, honest, the way you'd expect from someone who's seen your proposals come to life. I remember telling him about my daughter, Remy, and how she'd just learned to ride a bike. She fell 3 times before she found her balance. He laughed, genuinely. He said, "You'd make a great mayor someday, Eliza." I have a routine. Breakfast at 7, oatmeal for me, fruit smoothies for Remy, school drop-off by 8:15, her backpack still too big for her thin shoulders. Office by 9, the click of the elevator door, the hum of the AC, the smell of brewing coffee on the 4th floor. I wear tailored jackets. I carry leather-bound notebooks. I email at midnight, signing off with, "Keep fighting the good fight." Have allies. Jenna, my secretary, steady hands, a quick wit, and the kind of loyalty you can't buy. Counselor Harris, always ready with a statistic, a quote, a spare laptop charger. And then there's Remy, who calls me Supermom when I drop her off at school, and who writes me sticky notes with hearts and "Good luck, Mama." I have habits. I tap my pen 3 times before I speak in a meeting. I pause to straighten every nameplate on the conference table. I rehearse speeches aloud in my car, windows up, singing truths into the rearview mirror. I have struggles. I worry about Remy's health. Her asthma flares when the air turns cold. I worry about the budget cuts in our department. Each line item looks like a battle. I worry about being just a working mom in the eyes of my critics. I have a reputation. Reliable, compassionate, steely when I need to be. I have goals. To win the upcoming council election. To secure funding for the Eastgate Youth Center. To prove that a single mom can run this city with integrity. But none of that mattered the morning I opened the newspaper and saw the headline, "Deputy Director Sinclair declared unfit to lead," says anonymous source. I remember the screech of the coffee mug against the countertop as I let go. I remember the silence that followed. Remy's shoelaces paused mid-tie. I remember the weight of the world pressing down, as though the glass ceiling had turned into a lead blanket. I called Jenna, voice trembling. She answered on the first ring. Her calm, steady as my blood pressure was about to skyrocket, was the only thing anchoring me. I stood in the kitchen, paper in hand, blood pounding in my temples. I saw the words, but I couldn't believe them. Unfit to lead. I wondered, who would say that about me? I wondered, why would they pick the most vulnerable target? My role as a mother, my devotion to this city. I wondered, what don't I know? And then, the phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Hope you're ready for the fallout, Eliza. What fallout? I closed my eyes. I whispered to myself, this isn't how the story is supposed to go. What happens when your reputation evaporates overnight? How do you defend everything you've built? When you don't even know your enemy? I felt the first tremor of doubt the morning Jenna arrived with the printed dossier. I felt it as I watched her hands shake while she laid the pages on my desk. I remember the way the overhead light caught the top page, a memo I never wrote, a quote I never said. I remember the way my heart slammed against my ribs like a battering ram. I opened the dossier. I unfolded each sheet and then I froze. I read about whispered complaints. She yells at staff. She's too emotional. She lies to secure funds. I read about confidential meetings I was never invited to. I read about a narrative being woven, thread by poisonous thread, to frame me as a tyrant. I slammed the dossier shut. I slammed my fist on the desk. I slammed the door on the office empty, except for me and my spiraling thoughts. I called Counselor Harris. I called, but his voicemail picked up. I called again and again. And then he answered. I thought he'd reassure me. Instead, his voice was clipped. Eliza, he said, I'm dealing with some issues. I'll get back to you. Issues? I asked. Budget, he said. Staff morale. You'll call me back? Soon. I hung up. I stared at the phone. I wondered if I'd ever hear from him again. I felt the manipulations weaving tighter around me. I felt the invisible noose of rumors. I felt panic rise like bile in my throat. I remembered the first time she crossed the line. I was presenting the Eastgate Youth Center proposal. I was 3 slides in when the projector flickered. I tapped the remote. The screen went black. I looked up. She was standing in the back, arms folded, lips curved in that condescending half-smile. She said loud enough for half the audience. Did you rehearse this, Ms. Sinclair? Her tone, sweet poison. The room laughed. I stammered. I felt the heat in my cheeks. I recovered. I finished the presentation. I won the vote. But I never forgot the sting of that laughter. And then the emails started. I got one every morning at 5:47 a.m. Subject line. A word from a concerned citizen. Body. A single sentence that varied each day, sometimes cruel, sometimes cryptic, always unnerving. I forwarded them to Jenna. She scanned each one. She said, "We'll block the address." And then, another came from a new address. I changed my email. I changed my password. I switched my phone number. But the letters found me anyway. I felt gaslit when the mayor's office called. I felt gaslit when they said, "We haven't received any complaints." I felt gaslit when they suggested I was overworked, stressed, hearing things. I sat in my car after one call. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I whispered, "I'm not crazy." I whispered, "I'm not." I returned to my office and found my desk rearranged. I found personal photos moved, pens rearranged by color. My nameplate flipped to face the wall. I found a note in my coffee mug. "Take a break, sweetheart." I felt the walls closing in. I felt the claustrophobia of suspicion. I felt my confidence slip through my fingers like sand. And then there was the staff meeting. I walked in, expecting allies. I saw blank faces. I saw forced smiles. I saw whispers that stopped when I approached. I cleared my throat. I began to speak. I was interrupted by Jenna's urgent text. "Get out, now." I looked up. My secretary rushed past me, pushing papers into my arms. I didn't ask. I didn't look back. I followed her out into the corridor. She led me to a deserted stairwell. She said, trembling, "They're coming. They lied. They set." "You up?" I asked. "Who?" She shook her head. She whispered, "I don't know." I clutched the dossier to my chest. I clutched Jenna's arm. I clutched Remy's last doodle, "Love you, Mom," in my jacket pocket. I felt the world tilt. I felt the air thin. I felt my voice catch in my throat. And then, footsteps thundered above us. I looked up. I wondered who was coming to finish, what they started, who wanted me out of the way, and what would they do if I didn't disappear. I am alone in the hallway, and then I hear Remy's voice. I am frozen, and then the words slice through me like shattered glass. "I'm scared, Mama," she whispers, clutching her backpack straps. I am struck by the tremor in her voice, the way her small shoulders shake. I am supposed to be her protector. I am supposed to keep her safe. I remember the moment it all broke. I remember stepping off the school bus, sunlight making dust motes dance in the air. I remember seeing Remy's face go blank. I remember her saying, "Is Mommy sick? Are they going to take you away?" I am speechless. I am choking on the words. I can't speak. I am forced to kneel and look her in the eyes. I am forced to lie with a gentle smile. "No, sweetie. Just a small problem at work. We'll fix it." I am pretending. I am pretending until I feel my chest collapse under the weight. I am pretending until my vision blurs and I pull her close. I am pretending until the last flicker of innocence dies behind her brave, childish eyes. I walk into the courthouse lobby, each footstep echoing. I feel the marble under my heels. I feel the echo of laughter from a distant hearing. I feel the gavel's promise of judgment hanging like a storm cloud. I sit in the back row of the courtroom. I feel the pinprick of judgment from every face, turned away from me. I feel Jenna's hand on my shoulder, steady, unshaken. I feel my pulse racing, loud enough to drown out the judge's opening remarks. I remember the betrayal. I remember opening my inbox to find an email from my sister, Marianne. "You need to step down. We can't help you anymore." I remember the stab of disbelief. I remember her name morphing in my mind from sister to stranger. I stand and point at the empty seat beside me. I say, "Where are you, Marianne? Where is my family?" I say it loud enough for the courtroom to hear. I say it even louder in my head. I lean forward, hands trembling on the pew in front of me. I whisper to myself, "I can't do this alone." I whisper, "I don't have a choice." I glance at the prosecution table. I see her, Judge Caldwell's assistant, Linda Reyes, holding the damning dossier like a trophy. I see the curl of her lips as she flips to page 7. I see the flicker of triumph in her eyes. I grip my notes until the paper tears. I stare at the judge's bench, the high-backed chair, the polished wood. I stare at the glint of the gavel, waiting to fall. And then I see Jenna rise in the witness stand, face pale but determined. And then I hear the judge's booming voice, "Proceed with your testimony." And then I feel my knees give way. I stumble forward, notes fluttering like wounded birds. I clear my throat. I begin to speak, my voice raspy, unsteady. I have served this community with my whole heart. I have given every ounce of my strength to my daughter, to my colleagues, to the people who believed in me. I pause, breath coming in short bursts. I pause, eyes flicking to Remy's empty seat. I pause, wondering if this is the moment I lose everything. I summon every ounce of courage. I summon the memory of Remy's sticky notes, the moment Mayor Caldwell's laugh warmed me the first time I held my sleeping daughter. I summon the truth. I look at Linda Reyes and say, "You know that dossier is filled with lies. You know they're fabrications. You've orchestrated this." I feel her gaze sharpen. I feel the courtroom hush. I brace for the worst. I brace for the judge's gavel, but I refuse to back down. Can one mother's truth shatter the walls built to contain her? I sit down as Jenna steps off the stand, and then the room crackles with impossible tension. I watch her cross to my table, her hand trembling ever so slightly as she holds out a flash drive. I taste adrenaline, bitter and electric, on my tongue. I pick up the drive, its surface cool beneath my fingers. I plug it into my laptop. I watch the screen flicker. Then, the video begins. I hear my own voice, distorted, agile, reading statements I never uttered. I see myself in the mayor's office, signing documents stamped confidential, documents I never saw until today. I see the assistant, Linda Reyes, leaning in, her lips whispering words I can't quite make out. I see the timestamp 3 weeks ago. I feel my pulse thunder as Jenna clicks play on the next file. I see email exchanges, Linda forwarding excerpts of my private emails, altering a comma here, a phrase there, then sending them back to me for approval. I see her typing under my name, her mocking smirk frozen in pixels. I look up at the gallery, the mayor's face, stone, the council members, mouths agape, the courtroom clerk, wide eyes shining with disbelief. Then, Jenna plays the final file. The room goes silent except for my ragged breathing. I hear Linda's voice. Once she believes her own lies, no one will stop her. I see her leaning over my desk, dark hair falling like a curtain, her eyes cold. Then, the voicemail. I hear the mayor's voice. "Linda, if Sinclair goes forward with this, she'll ruin everything I've built. We need her out, preferably without a scene." I hear her laughter, soft, triumphant, echo in the hushed courtroom. I collapse against the table, the flash drive slipping from my grasp. I feel tears stinging my eyes. I feel my legs give way, and Jenna catches me before I hit the floor. Then, the judge's gavel strikes once, hard, decisive. The echo rings in my ears like a promise. Then, the mayor rises, his face pale. Then, he turns away, unable to meet my gaze. Then, Linda Reyes retreats to the prosecution table, her notes fluttering like wounded birds. I close my eyes and inhale, long, shuddering. I taste the metallic tang of victory and relief. I taste truth at last unleashed. Then, the judge calls for order. I lift my head. I lift my chin. Then, the judge addresses Linda. "You have committed forgery, perjury, and obstruction of justice. You will answer for your actions." I feel the courtroom exhale as one. I feel Jenna's hand squeeze mine. I feel the weight of the dossier lift from my shoulders. I feel the air, no longer a noose, but a ribbon of freedom. Then, I see my daughter's school counselor slip into the back row. Then, I see Remy's small notebook in her hand. "I knew you would win, Mama," scribbled inside. Then, I know, this is the moment everything changed. I rise and approach the judge's bench, each step a reclamation. I speak, voice steady. "Your Honor, may I request that the record reflect the malicious intent to destroy my career and my life?" I see the judge nod. I see my allies exchange triumphant glances. Then, the judge pronounces Linda's actions null and void. Then, he restores my standing, my reputation, my name. Then, he dismisses the case against me. I exhale, the sound of my relief roaring louder than any gavel. I look at the faces in the courtroom, friends, colleagues, witnesses to my vindication. And I rise. How does it feel to stand in the light after being cast into darkness? How does a mother rebuild after her life is nearly shattered? And then, I realize, the hardest battles aren't fought in boardrooms or courtrooms. They're fought in the heart. Then, I descend the steps, met by Jenna's tearful grin and Counselor Harris's outstretched hand. Then, I spot the mayor, silent, ashamed, offering no apology, only distance. Then, I feel the power of truth, unbreakable, unstoppable. Can one woman's courage ignite a city's conscience? Can justice restored become a beacon for others who suffer in silence? And then, I step into the hallway, light flooding through the tall windows, and I know I am free. I am heard. I am unbroken. What would you do if you held the power to expose the truth? I descend the bench steps, heart still pounding, and then I feel the weight of every gaze follow me. I feel Jenna's hand slip into mine, solid, reassuring, like an anchor in a storm. I feel Counselor Harris take a breath beside me, shoulders relaxing at last. I step into the corridor beyond the courtroom doors, and then I taste freedom on my tongue. I taste it like air after a lifelong underwater dive. I taste it like the first deep breath of dawn. I walk past the rows of marble columns, their veins lit by golden afternoon shafts of light. I walk past the silent staffers, their heads bowed in respect. I walk past the security guard who nods and steps aside. I remember pressing my palm to one column, granite cool against my skin, and thinking, this city is mine too. I remember the tremor in my legs as I rounded the final corner and saw Remy. Her small frame, framed by the sunlit archway, clutching her worn backpack, her eyes shining with tears and triumph all at once. I run. I run into her arms. I feel her backpack press into my back. I feel her arms squeeze my neck. I whisper, I'm okay. I'm okay. I whisper until my words find solid ground. I whisper until the tremor in my voice fades. I pull back and study her face, smudged cheeks, tangled hair, hopeful eyes. And then I weep. I weep because I realize how close I came to losing everything. I weep because this moment, raw and perfect, was worth every fight. I gather her fingers in mine and lead her outside the courthouse. I feel the warmth of the pavement under my heels. I feel the bustle of the plaza. Vendors packing up umbrellas, buskers tuning guitars, the distant hum of traffic. I hold Remy's hand as we weave toward our car. I feel people pause, nod, offer quiet congratulations. I feel respect for the single mother who refused to be silenced. I settle into the driver's seat and then I close my eyes. I press my forehead against the steering wheel. I give thanks for Jenna, for Harris, for Remy, and for the truth that never faltered. I check the rearview mirror and see my reflection. Jaw set, eyes bright, spine straight. Start the engine and hear the familiar rumble. I shift into gear and feel the car move forward, toward home, toward healing, toward what comes next. I pull into the driveway of our small house. I step onto the porch and then I pause. I look up at the second-floor window where Remy's bedroom light still glows. I remember every sleepless night she spent beside me. I remember every scraped knee I kissed better. I remember every "Good night, Mama" whispered in the dark. I scoop Remy into my arms. I carry her across the threshold and then I tuck her into bed. I feel her small hand find mine in the sheets. I feel her drift into sleep with a soft sigh. I stand in the doorway, the hallway light casting long shadows on the floorboards. I feel the burden of the dossier finally lift from my spirit. I feel a calm I haven't known in months. I walk downstairs, to the living room. I see the leather-bound notebooks on the coffee table. I see the half-finished speech on the laptop screen. I see the coffee mug that reads, "World's Best Mom." I sit on the couch and cradle the mug in my hands. I feel the warmth seep into my palms. I feel gratitude flood my bones. I open the laptop and then I begin to type. I type my speech for the council, confident and clear. I type thank you notes to my allies. I type a reminder to Remy. You are my greatest victory. I pause and lean back. I place a hand on my abdomen and close my eyes. I feel the quiet echo of my heartbeat, a steady drum of survival. I rise and walk to the window. I watch the street lamps flicker on one by one. I watch the city exhale into the evening. I whisper to the night. We did it. I whisper. I did it. I whisper. I am not just unbroken. I am stronger. I turn from the window and then I switch off the living room light. I walk upstairs, my footsteps soft on the carpet. I slip into bed beside Remy. I wrap an arm around her and then I drift toward sleep. I drift with the knowledge that truth prevailed. I drift with the promise that no matter what comes next, I will face it head on. I close my eyes and think. This is my resolution, my moment of rest. This is the peace earned through the fiercest battle of my life. I have learned that truth doesn't need permission to be heard. I have learned that a single mother's courage can outshine the darkest conspiracies. I have learned that when lies gather like storm clouds, honesty becomes our strongest shelter. I stand here today, heart still pounding, voice still trembling, and I promise you this, I will never let fear silence me again. I will never let betrayal steal my purpose. I will never abandon the people who believe in me, or the daughter who calls me supermom. I was pushed to the brink. I was forced to defend every part of my life. But I emerged stronger, unbroken, and more determined than ever. I share my story so that anyone feeling trapped by lies, doubts, or conspiracies knows. You are not alone. You are not powerless. Your truth is your weapon. Will you wield it? Will you stand in the light, even when the darkness feels overwhelming? If my journey resonates with you, if you've ever felt unheard or underestimated, I invite you to join this community of truth tellers. I invite you to like this video, share your story in the comments below, and subscribe for more first-person, courtroom dramas where justice prevails. I invite you to hit the bell icon so you never miss a moment when we expose the lies and celebrate the victories together. I am Eliza Sinclair, and this was my fight. Thank you for listening. Now, it's your turn. What truth will you reveal today? I'm Eliza Sinclair, and if my story moved you, please give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you never miss a moment when we stand up for the truth together. Share your own battles in the comments below. I read everyone. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next courtroom.